Chapter 8. The Start of Healing and a Wonderful Journey. October 12, 2007, 10:23 a.m. Sue was held in bumper-to-bumper traffic at the New Bedford side of the New Bedford-Fairhaven Bridge, watching the span rotate close behind the wake of a returning fishing vessel. Because every fiber of her being was alive with excitement, the bridge's retraction seemed to be taking an extra long time.
Let's go already. I could swim this quicker.
She glanced down at the business suit she was wearing and laughed.
Headline: Fairhaven woman swims the bay dressed to the nines.
There was nothing to do but wait. The house closing was a done deal. All involved parties had met first thing in the morning at the Sovereign Bank in downtown New Bedford. With Pete Johnson's assistance and the bank lawyer's proficient handling, the whole process had gone off without a hitch. The Pratt sisters had turned over the keys of 2 Old Stable Lane with a resigned dignity. They were leaving behind the place they had called home for the past 48 years. The next morning would find them winging their way south to Florida. It was comforting to be sure that they no longer would have to endure New England's harsh winters. Their days of snowball fights, sledding, and building snowmen were long behind them. At this stage in the game, winter represented the ills of aches, pains, inconvenience, and isolation. While there had been a measured excitement radiating between the elderly spinsters of what was to come, both had breathed saddened sighs upon shaking Sue's hand to wish her well. Emotions aside, it was the end of an era and the start of another. Once all the required documents were signed and recorded, everyone had said their goodbyes in the bank lobby and headed out to resume their respective lives. Now here she was, sitting in absent-minded wait at the bridge. A very detailed list of things to do sat on the passenger seat beside her. The back seat held a bag of work clothes, a large assortment of hand tools, a stepladder, a telephone, and her ever-present supply of Pepsi and saltines. A loud wail of a siren re-established her connection to the road. At last, the arms of the bridge's gates were lifting open, allowing the vehicles to proceed. As she accelerated ahead, her mind began to race with thoughts of the new house. She sped along as if on automatic pilot due to the fact that the Corolla had repeatedly traversed this route during the previous months. Over and over again, she had driven to the house on the lure of its magnetism, simply to look at it and admire it. With each trip to the country, Sue had been armed with a legal pad, pencils, and a pen, so as to sit in the driveway for many hours writing lists of potential improvements and drawing sketches of various exterior renovations. It was amazing how much pleasure and fulfillment she had gotten out of this dreaming and visualizing stage. There was a tremendous feeling of exhilaration in the journey which was about to begin. For as far back as she could recall, her actions had been an extension of others. All the while growing up, her father had imposed a strict and stifling set of rules on her activities, where there were 9 don'ts for every do. Then she had leapt from the frying pan into the fire when she had taken Lance's hand in marriage. All throughout he had kept her on the tightest of leashes. She was told when and how to do everything from tying her shoes to waking up in the morning. So this recently acquired independence was a new way of life for her. It was a behavior she was determined to make into a long-term habit. At age 42, Sue was now able to acknowledge that her past circumstances had left her emotionally bruised, that she had spent the past 20 years in a relationship devoid of validation and nurturing. With the lifting of these injustices, a vitality that had been lying dormant was fast emerging. There was a solid determination at work. Not only would the new house receive a major revitalization, so would she. In what seemed like a blink of an eye, Sue saw Old Stable Lane quickly approaching on her right. After pulling the car to the side of the road, she removed the stepladder from the back seat and propped it against the signpost. Even though she was dressed in her business suit and heels, she carefully climbed the ladder to straighten the metal rectangle at the top of the vertical pole with a pair of pliers. Next, she sprayed the dust-caked sign with Windex and polished it to a high sheen. Once everything was repacked into the car, she glanced up to inspect her handiwork.
There's no problem reading you now.
In the following moment, a heavy pencil line crossed out the initial item on her list of things to do.
1 down, 1 million to go.
After such a long wait, or what had seemed like a long wait, she could hardly contain her excitement. It was amazing that only a month's time had passed since the showing. For the whole duration, she had been a raw nerve, anticipating and worrying about the pieces falling together accordingly. But that was now a thing of the past. The only thought on her mind from this point forward would be that this incredible house was all hers. Just before she turned into the long driveway, she stopped to pull the metal Johnson Real Estate sign out of the ground and put it into her trunk.
What is he doing here so early?
She asked with surprise. The telephone installer was not scheduled to arrive until later in the afternoon, but the AT&T truck was already parked alongside the house. Sue was glad that she had come straight from the closing, or else she may have missed her window of opportunity. Working out here over the weekend without telephone service was not the wisest thing to do. In no time flat, the technician had her all hooked up with a working phone in the kitchen. She also discovered that the electric had been put into her name by testing the appropriate knobs and switches. Sue's first order of business was to change into her work clothes. Jeans and a sweatshirt would be her uniform for the next few months. With camera in hand, she systematically covered the interior of the house by snapping opposing shots of each room. This process would be repeated in several months once the refurbishing was complete and all of the furniture was in place. Sue had already purchased a large photo album where she would store the pictures for reminiscing and posterity. After playing in-house photographer for the rest of the morning, she headed to the dividing wall between the two tiny rooms off the den. A quick procedure needed to be performed before anything radical could be initiated. Sue climbed the stepladder, made a small hole in the ceiling with a hammer and screwdriver, and reached her hand up into the opening to find the direction of the floor joists. Pleased air blew from her mouth when she quickly determined that this was not a supporting wall.
I knew it. I just knew it. Now for the part everyone's been waiting for.
She stepped down and squared off with her adversary. Making sure to project her ex-husband's face onto the flat plane, the therapy was about to begin. Yeah, Lance? You want to give me more of your lip? Take this, you two-timing scoundrel. With a ferocious swing of her sledgehammer, a vengeful wound was inflicted. The next 4 hours were spent wielding the hammer, taking Lance apart piece by piece. Before she knew it, all of the plaster and laths had been stripped from the studs. Sue stood back with her hands on her hips, looking through the skeletal wall to the small room on the other side. Her arms and legs trembled with the burning effects of fatigue.
Take that,
she yelled triumphantly. The room had grown to measure 10 by 19 feet, which would be fully accommodating to her dining room furniture, especially the 10-foot table. After another 2 hours, all remnants of the wall had disappeared. The floor was strewn with plaster, laths, and 2x4s. A film of white powder covered Sue's body and clothing from head to toe. Now that the first demolition project was under her belt, it was obvious that her work was cut out for her. The overall job was going to be mighty difficult, but the transformation would be so worth it.
This is excellent,
she exclaimed and went to the phone in the kitchen to punch in her friend's home number. It wasn't until the third ring that her need to share found its desired outlet.
Hello? Hi, Dodo. Hey, Susie Q. Okay, I'm ready. Fill me in. It's all mine. So it's official? Yep. That's wonderful.
Sue let out an exuberant shout.
I'm so excited. I can't even see straight right now. You deserve every bit of it. Oh, I hope so. After all you've been through, it's about time something like this happened to you. Yeah, I guess you're right. Of course I'm right. So you over there now?
What do you think? Doreen chuckled before giving her friend a needle.
You done fixing it yet? Please. Well, you must have at least gotten your hands dirty. You could say that. I just spent the whole afternoon sledgehammering the wall down in the dining room. You're unbelievable. I can't wait to see it. Well, I don't know what you've got going on tomorrow, but if you're up for some fun, I'm going to be out here bright and early scraping wallpaper. All right, count me in.
This touched something deep within Sue. For the better part of a decade, Doreen had been her loyal partner in pain, riding every bit of the roller coaster ride that had been her life. Now she was about to share in the joy that had long been their hope. It almost seemed like it couldn't be real, but the lightness in Doreen's voice said that it surely was.
Want me to bring anything? Like coffee or muffins? Just yourself. All I need is some company, and your extra pair of hands. Okay, consider them donated. Thanks, Dodo,
Sue said softly.
I'm so happy right now. You should be, Susie Q. This has been a long time coming.